Have you ever wondered why God asks you to pray? Sometimes you may hesitate to pray because you are unaware of the spiritual battles that are going on behind the scenes. If you could recognize the many spiritual attacks you face every day, you would never ignore God's invitation to prayer. Sin is not the only threat to Christians. It is when we become so secure in our beliefs that we become complacent and open ourselves to the devil's attacks. Let me explain how the devil works. The challenges we face in our daily lives don't suddenly appear out of nowhere. If you knew the truth, you would realize that the devil planned these attacks long before they appeared in the physical realm. For example, imagine that in April 2024 you lose your job, become seriously ill, and become bedridden in the hospital. These attacks may seem to be happening just like the one you are experiencing, but the devil has already been planning for a long time. They are only visible when they actually occur. Demons don't fight random battles. He knows that you have power and authority over him. But his strategy and experience stand out. If he wants to attack you in 5 years, he will start moving towards it 10 years in advance. That's why his attacks sometimes surprise you. If we do not pray fervently, we will be overwhelmed by many of these attacks and find ourselves in crisis management rather than victory. Jesus described this scenario through a parable in Matthew 13 verses 24 to 30. He told the story of a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, he saw his enemies sowing tares among the wheat. The weeds were initially hidden and appeared only when the wheat germinated and set fruit. The servants were confused and asked where the weed came from. The master replied, "This is what the enemy has done." This story shows how problems can arise when things are going well and God has blessed us with a breakthrough. The enemy secretly plants seeds of disaster in our lives that remain dormant until we succeed. These are timing issues that arise when you are on the brink of a breakthrough. This is why God calls us to prayer. We often fail to understand the spiritual reality behind what we see in the physical world. When someone dies suddenly in their sleep, we can think that God has called that person. But that's a misunderstanding. If the scheduled time is not met, a person can die. As recorded in Ephesians 2 verses 1 to 2, there are countless people around the world who are physically alive but spiritually dead. The devil waits for the right moment to seal their spiritual death with a physical one. He uses illnesses as cover-ups to hide his actions behind the scenes. Even in a hospital, you might think that all the patients suffer only physical ailments. However, many illnesses result from prior spiritual attacks manifesting in the physical realm. Job 2 verse 7 recounts how Satan caused Job to have sores, and no one, including Job himself, realized it was the devil attacking him. The devil sometimes enters a family, causes division, and then vanishes, leaving the members to fight amongst themselves. Other times, he sows seeds of sickness in someone with great potential, just as they are about to bear fruit. This is why we must pray. We often fail to perceive immediate spiritual attacks because the enemy can numb us and prevent us from sensing the harm being done at that moment. These attacks inflict hidden wounds that only become evident later on. Similar to a homeowner held hostage during a robbery, they may remain unaware of what is being stolen or destroyed until they are freed to assess the damage. Spiritual attacks can have a gradual and concealed impact that only reveals itself after the attack ends. It may be shocking to hear stories of believers dying in accidents, but we must understand that the devil shows no favoritism based on one's spiritual status. If given the opportunity, his goal is to destroy destinies. Acts 12 verses 1 to 3 recounts how King Herod arrested and persecuted members of the church, even leading to the execution of James, the brother of John. Peter would have suffered the same fate if not for the prayers of the church. This shows that even Christians can have their lives cut short by demonic attacks, outside of God's perfect timing. Psalm 82 verses 6 to 7 emphasizes that, despite being children of the Most High, there is still a possibility of dying like mere mortals if we are not vigilant. While God possesses absolute authority and power, we must understand that on earth, we are subject to His power and authority. Otherwise, we will become victims of the enemy we have been given power over. We must recognize that we live in a world filled with darkness, and remain constantly committed to God. My prayer is that God, in His limitless grace, will strengthen and empower you, granting you the ability to overcome every spiritual attack in the name of Jesus. God bless you, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy our videos, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel.